Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Say Report. I'm your host, Devin Decker, and joining me, my host companion, Siegen Sarwick. Is it Siegen Sarwick or the Tum Tum, Colt, Rocky?
No, we're sticking with Siegen. We're not. I'm not. Oh my God, Devin, the hubris of the '90s.
The
What
hubris
were we
of
thinking?
Well, before we get into the hubris of the 90s, because what were we thinking? Happy Ninja-Tivity. This is a thing that we do. Usually it's so we can have a little time off during Christmas and New Year's. But we named a fucking episode this Wednesday Christmas is Weird. So this is the first live, he said with huge air quotes, Ninja-Tivity that we've recorded in the history of the show. And
this December's been pretty wild for us. We had
December's-
a Godfather episode, we had a Surviving Christmas episode, and now we've got a Ninja-Tivity.
Now it's Ninja-Tivity time. And because we always try to celebrate something ninja from our youth that's 30 years old, we're looking at Three Ninjas Kick Back. And it's Kick Back, right? And the reason why I had to check
That's the one I watched.
myself
It better be the one you watched.
is because canonically this is the third Three Ninjas movie. It's the one where they go to Japan, as proven by the Bad News Bears. In the third movie, you always got to go to Japan. I mean, that's just blatantly false. Look at the Karate Kid Part 2. I mean, we kind of just did. But this film, despite being shot after the Three Ninjas Knuckle Up, released first. And it's crazy. Like, I don't understand.
Well, it's even what's crazier than that is Knuckle Up. It wasn't just shot before this; it was shot congruently, essentially, with the first movie.
Right.
Three Ninjas Knuckle Up was shot and made and ready to go as soon as the first one hit theaters. So it's not just weird that this movie comes out first because the other one was already made. The other one had already been made for
2 years
like
at least.
3 years at that point, right? Yeah.
Yeah, they were shot back to back, which is also weird because Alan McRae and Martina Franco, who play Douglas and Jessica, Samuel and Jessica Douglas, the parents, are not in Knuckle Up at all, which is weird. Like,
well, okay, yeah. Well, and in this movie, okay. So,
but let's talk about the hubris of the '90s.
Like, the origin.
Oh, please.
The origin of this film, like because of the fact that like we do have this thing where the parents become much more predominant in this one than they were in the other two, like really. And then on top of that, like Grandpa gets a name change unexpectedly.
Yeah,
right?
why
Isn't
is he
one of the other big things?
He's no longer Mori Tanaka. He's Mori Shintanobu, and Shintaro. Sorry.
Shintaro, yeah.
Shinobu is the guy who ends up playing Koga, who is from the town of Koga, and who is also Lord Norinaga from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3, The Sacred Scroll of Death.
Does he learn a lesson in that movie too? No, he doesn't.
He kind of does. He's afraid. He realizes that the true demon is man, not Kappas. Gosh. Yeah, no.
Yeah,
so it is.
So something about this movie, right? Like about Kickback, just like again, it reeks of hubris. It reeks of this idea that just like they had another movie in the can that they could put out, and they were in such a bind to get that movie out because of apparently like rights issues or some nonsense like that, which is wild. And they were so sure that they needed to have this sequel out. And that they just shot another one. They were just like, but the thing is that the first one wasn't exactly well received, right? Like we talked about how it was fun, but even we admitted like it is not a good movie.
I think it's great. I really, really do enjoy the first Three Ninjas film, specifically the one that we got to watch 2 years ago when we celebrated Ninja-Tivity. If you want to go and find it, Four Strands of Rope is the name of the episode. I really like that one
because fun time, but
sorry,
go ahead.
No, but because the one that we ended up watching turned out to be an international version where they lose the basketball game, and that really shifts the whole like tone of the film to them being human and not little like gods. And then also like they use real weapons. Like the international version does not shy away from adult men using swords on three little babies. And
Yeah,
I dig that. I'm going to be honest. Like, it doesn't... These movies, more so than ever with fucking Kickback, are kind of just what if Home Alone but ninjas.
Well, it's the rambunctious kid like comedy, right?
Yeah.
Like you always have like, don't tell mom the babysitter's dead and things like that, right? Like this genre of film that is about like watching kids get up to shit, right? And that's the joy of it. Sometimes there's like gadgets and gizmos involved. Sometimes you get like the Home Alone aspect of there being like actual bad guys for them to go up against, but sometimes it's just like nonsense. But this movie, this genre lends itself and lended itself specifically in the early 90s to a lot of just trash, just dumped out films that they could just put in theaters, and they were pretty much just guaranteed they were going to make, 30 million on it just for people just showing up, because it was what you did. You brought your kid to the movies to go see Three Ninjas. I remember seeing like posters for this. I remember renting this movie from Blockbuster. I remember watching this movie on afternoons on TV. So like these movies got made and they got like pushed around. They got forced on us in a lot of ways.
I mean, they got forced on us. That's an interesting thing to say. They got forced on us because we liked ninja stuff. Because of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Like, it was our parents were like, well, they'll probably like this too, right? Like, it really was this beautiful synergy. I mean, a synergy that this film itself takes the time to make a joke about. This movie, I mean, we're going to talk about Knuckle Up next year, right? That's part of Ninja-Tivity for 2025. Sorry, right? To just ruin everybody's day by saying, yeah, we're watching Knuckle Up too. But this movie, more so than Knuckle Up, and we'll have confirmation of that in a year from now, is a remake of the first movie.
Yeah,
like
a poor one, but yeah,
no. I'm
yes,
not. We're not going to talk about the quality.
There's a lot of stuff that it. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that it reiterates. There's a lot of that whole problem that sequels always have, where it seems like they didn't learn anything from the first movie. It's like the people that they supposedly become at the end of the first movie are not the people they are at the beginning of this one.
Right. And then that becomes even weirder when you factor in that Knuckle Up supposedly happened between the two of them. But also, this film, and I love opening up this theory, right? Break in case of glass. Oh, the glass is already broken. Different universe. Knuckle Up never happened in the world of this movie. I think it's one of the reasons why they changed the name of Grandpa. Just so that they can avoid any of the issues that is precluding them from distributing Knuckle Up. I mean, it's not the reason why Chad Power and original Rocky do not return. That is not the case. That is because Chad Power's in a TV movie at the time, and the actor who played Rocky, I will get his name because it's right to do that. Michael Trainer.
Michael Trainer.
Yeah. He had quit acting. He was like, I'm in the 3 Ninja movies, 3 Ninjas, Knuckle Up. I never have to act again. And Chad Power, you only have one brother, who returns.
Yeah, I do think there's something to be said about the idea that this is not the same family. These are not the same kids. Like in a weird sense, they can't be, right? Like I know like this is like the joke because of the ways that they're behaving, but you said specifically this has to exist in a world in which Knuckle Up didn't happen. And of course, because if I'm going to see this movie in theaters in 1994, I haven't had the chance to see Knuckle Up yet. So this movie has to exist in a world in which Knuckle Up didn't happen for its audience. Can you imagine if this movie spent half of its time referencing shit in a movie that hadn't come out yet?
And the weird thing is, it also still does. It's a small reference, but the tree at the end when they're hang gliding, this movie is fucking bananas. But it was like, the tree! Like, that is a reference to the one line from 3 Ninjas Knuckle Up that I cannot evict from my brain pan. And that is when Rocky goes to drive the truck and he backs up into a tree and he goes, what, that tree came out of nowhere? And Colt snipes back, yeah, about 100 years ago. Like, so then Colt hitting a tree while he's hang gliding with Tum Tum, like, They even do write in like these little callbacks to Knuckle Up that like only really work if you've seen Knuckle Up, which you wouldn't have had, but they have to still be trying to distribute the film. They have a completed movie. But they're like, but we're not going to release that. We have to make another movie. And we won't have two of the brothers, right? Michael Traynor and Chad Power aren't going to be in this movie. But you know who we are going to get back? The bully from the basketball game. Apparently, this dude's just a thorn in the sides of the Douglas boys.
But then they introduce the whole new character of Mio, and they try and fold her into the group, and it becomes very almost like Power Rangers. Like I was just waiting at some point for a Red Ranger to show up. Like
that is my. Can I be the loser of losers right now? It is so upsetting to me that at the end, when Grandpa and the three ninjas and Miho reunite, two of them are wearing white. I'm like, that's such a bothersome moment to me.
Yeah, well, and so Victor Wong, who plays Grandpa, right? Like we saw him in his ninja outfit in the first movie, right? If I remember correctly.
And it was like a nice navy blue. He had, I think.
Yeah.
But I do wonder.
At the beginning of this movie, we see him because he goes and he's training them.
Yeah, he's wearing a black doji at the beginning of the film. Like it is very much not his midnight blue that he wears to attack Snyder's ship in the first movie.
But at least even that, at least the black one would have at least been something different, right?
Yeah. So then I'm wondering, right, as I'm watching the movie, if the white is because they're the champion, but Miho was already wearing white before she won the tournament. There's a freaking karate tournament in this movie. I'm sorry, a ninja tournament in this movie. This movie is crazy. Like, I agree that this is hubris. This is hubris of the highest regard. We're going to make another shitty Three Ninja movie, and kids are going to go see it. And they were right? Because I saw this in theaters. I can't speak for Sejin, but this was like the last film that I remember seeing at the Searstown Mall, because it was still the Searstown Mall, cinema. It was the cinema that, like, from my youth, where I saw Mighty Ducks and Mighty Ducks 2 and The Little Mermaid. Like, it was kind of my farewell to that cinema, was seeing Three Ninjas kick back before we moved to Rhode Island.
Yeah, I will say that I can't recall going to see it in theaters, but we sure rented this movie a lot from various places: Major Video, Blockbuster Video, Hollywood Video, all throughout whatever the hot new video store was that we had access to. Three Ninjas Kickback was one of those ones in the rotation when we just didn't know what else to rent, because this was a thing that you did. I don't think people really understand this back then, because like nobody rents things anymore. Everything is either is purchased or streaming.
I mean, I rented this on Amazon, but I understand your argument. Continue.
No, yeah, but I mean, like, going out to a video store on a Friday night because it's the weekend and you're going to be around this weekend and you're not quite sure what you're going to get up to. And one of the things we used to do was rent video games and movies, and you just kind of just did that every week with like this. If you were lucky enough. I obviously I understand the financial barrier there for a lot of families as well. But one of the things that what you used to do in the 90s was go out and just get a hold of this shit, and like, yeah. We were just looking for something to have on in the background while we hung out with our friends and ate pizza. So like we would rent the same movies over and over again if we wanted to. We did it enough that we had a pretty big repertoire. You and me, Dev. Like obviously we both have gone through some films in our lives, but like there were just some fallback ones every now and then that you just grabbed, and this was one of those. So like we definitely gave this movie more money than it was due.
Yeah, and it's one of those other things, like what we're describing, like you would rent a new movie, right? You'd go out on Friday night and you'd rent a movie that is brand new to video. And then they'd also be like, oh, for like $1 more, you can get another film from like the center of the store. So
well, like the new movie was the event, right? Like, exactly. Oh, we're all going to hang out and watch the new Terminator or whatever because it just came out. But we're also going to grab Three Ninjas to just also have, because we're going to be hanging out longer than just a movie, right? That was the other thing, is that often you would hang out with people for long periods of time, which is the thing that in my 30s I realized we just don't do anymore. I know.
That's what I'm longing for more than anything, is that type of hangout again. But there was also, there was that thing, maybe not at the video stores you were going to, but one of the reasons that you were incentivized to rent that second movie was because it was like, they know. I mean, having worked at 2 video stores, I also understand this. Video is making you no money if it's sitting on the floor. So even if you rent it for like half the regular price included with the rental of a new release, you're at least generating revenue. And then if they're late returning it, I mean, late fees were the real way that rental businesses made their money. I don't mean
Like
to
most
like,
sharks, yes.
yeah,
It's always the interest. It's always the juice that gets you.
exactly. And
But
then, but that's the thing. But like, that's why
yeah,
I
no,
rented. We
we would
rented
do
Anna.
they would
The one,
yeah, we
yeah.
would do the
Sorry.
dollar rental, or Major Video used to straight up do free family movies if you were renting. I think Family Video also did this too. But if you were renting a new movie, you could rent a classic family film, and it had to be like PG or G rated. And you could just get that. You could get it for free alongside it for 3 days, which is so that was also another reason why we picked movies like this up a bunch, is because we weren't paying for them.
Yeah, I mean, the one that jumps to mind was Anaconda. We wanted to rent Anaconda for like one of the guys' hangout sleepover Friday nights when I was in elementary school. And then the
Nice.
extra movie we got was Austin Powers. And like, I remember watching those 2 movies as a double feature just because of the fact that, and it was because like one of the people had already seen it. So you get to share it with your friends. I mean, the way we consumed media in the 90s was incredibly insane compared to how we do it now. Right now, we got choice paralysis, right? Like, you turn on Netflix, you might end up watching nothing because there's just too much to pick from. But going to the video store like at 6 o'clock on a Friday, hoping that you're there before everybody else, but knowing that you could have gotten there earlier, maybe getting one of the new releases, and then picking up some older film that you can just toss in, right? For like background noise, or like while you're playing games in the basement. Like, that was how we lived. And that is such a relic that I wasn't exactly expecting Three Ninjas Kickback to awaken in my mind, but yeah. And then
But it's the only way that movies like this could get made and survive in the ways that which they did, because at its core, if we look at this movie like completely removed from the context in which we consumed it when we were kids, this movie is garbo, dude. Like, there's no way around it. Like, there's shit that happens in this movie just because the plot needs to move along. There are weird ass moments where this movie tries to be like a goofy ass comedy. Then there's other moments where it becomes an Indiana Jones ripoff. At some point, I had like these weird like Three Stooges vibes going on with the 3 guys robbing the store. I mean, robbing the store, robbing the house. Like, which again is like a retelling of the first movie.
the same character,
right? The way
like,
that they just redid that.
the only way
Yeah.
it could be worse is if they got the 3 same actors to play the role. But they really were like, all right, well, we can't do anything with Knuckle Up, and I'm not going to talk about Knuckle Up anymore, right? After the 20-minute mark of this episode, I'm not going to bring it up anymore. But also, Knuckle Up is a very different movie from the first Three Ninjas film. Like, it is such a different film. So for this movie to come out and be essentially a retelling, but like everybody is a couple years older and most of the names and faces have literally changed, like, it's crazy. And I don't know the why of it. I don't know why this movie happens. Like,
And then this movie wants to delve into some weird shit with the whole like you got beat by a girl nonsense, and like the weird stuff going on with grandpa and the nurses in the hospital. The way this movie treats women is fucking wild. It is bizarre, because the other side of that is that they do introduce Mio as this very powerful fighter, and she does win right off the bat, beats Colt in a fight. Like, that's how we're introduced to her. And then they spend the rest of the movie like picking on people for getting beat by her, but she's just kicking everybody's ass everywhere she goes. So it's this really weird mixed message of a film. And then let's not we have to talk about Tum Tum, and about like the fourth wall breaking, that he basically becomes Bugs Bunny by the end of this fucking movie. And to add to that, I realized at some point he's not doing any fighting. every time the fights start, he disappears or he ends up grabbing somebody, and then that's his move for that whole fight scene is to just hold on to somebody, and that's his entire bit. When they climb up the wall in the gym, they show Mio, Colt, and Rocky climb up the wall. Don't show Tum Tum. They just show them. They show the four of them run up to the ropes. Cut to just three of them climbing. Cut to all four of them at the top of the ropes. And I'm just like, well, we have no idea how Tum Tum got up there, do we?
I'll tell you how. His Christian name is Michael Douglas. He acted his way up there. And I'm sorry that he's going to get throat cancer from cunnilingus one day.
Oh, dear God, he's a child. We're not doing that. We are...
But you're not wrong. It is very weird.
The ways in which they bring in a fourth character, right, a fourth kid to be in this group, but then because of bringing in Mio, they seem to completely cut out any need for Tum Tum the entire time, other than to just be there for the bit. Like, he's given all of the joke lines. He's given all of the weird moments. What the fuck is up with him and that dude's feet?
I don't know. I don't. That scene.
They're like talking to a dude, about this very important plot point about the knife, and like they ran away from home to bring this sword to their grandfather who's now in the hospital in Japan, and they get to this man. The man never removes his mask. Weird choice, but a choice made in this movie. And Tum Tum spends the entire time that they're talking to this guy poking his feet, being like, I bet he's ticklish. What the fuck is wrong with this kid?
The best part about the I bet it's ticklish is Colt grabbing him, like, get the fuck away from his feet. It was fine when you were just, like, goofing about the guy's feet, but, like, you're not going to touch him, Tum Tum. That's where we're going to draw the line today. It is, and the reason he doesn't remove his mask is wild. It's so that Koga eventually can pretend to be him. But also, there's that moment where they, like, Rocky and Miho are dicking around on the floating planks, and they end up, like, putting something through his wall, and we see him, and, like, there's no way for us to know that it's the Grandmaster, so they have Miho say, we have to go, that's the Grandmaster's house. Like, what do you want? What do you want in this movie? What exactly do you want me to know? Just tell me, and I'll follow you to the ends of the earth, Three Ninjas. But you need to tell me what's going on.
Yeah, no, it's really wild. I mean, and like the inability to commit to a fight scene is so unfortunate because like, and this is more of a product of what this movie is not an action movie. And the ways in which people prop it up as their favorite action movie is insane to me.
When you say people, do you mean Kim Jong-un?
No, I mean, like, if you look at reviews for this movie, and people will openly admit, you know, I love this movie, but it's a nostalgia thing. I understand it's not well made and all that, but they will constantly say one of my favorite action movies in the 90s, or like, oh yeah, I used to love these kinds of action movies. They don't make action movies like this anymore. And it's just like, this isn't an action movie. It's a family adventure film that just happens to have a ninja skin to it, so that gives them the excuse to every now and then get into like ninja battles. But then the battles last less than two minutes, and there's usually what it is it's a moment for them to do one stunt. It gives the kids all an opportunity, except for Tum Tum, the ability to do one stunt each, and then that scene is over, and then they move on to the next one. Which, in the idea of like the filmmaking aspect of it, I get it. First of all, they're not Jackie Chan, right? These kids are not highly trained like martial artists, at least not at a level at which you would expect them to be able to to follow choreography for a fight scene for extensive periods of time. But like, give them more than this. This is like I remember watching Power Rangers at this time and getting more action in a 30-minute episode of Power Rangers than there is in this entire movie, because like they run into a room full of people and then instantly pull off 3 moves and it knocks out everybody somehow, and then they just run away into another room. Game of Death, that was the other movie that this was ripping off for me, when they were the Bruce Lee one
while they're in the compound.
The tower.
Yeah. It's what's really sad is that Three Ninjas from 1992, they get a lot of good moments. Like, this film is also like a step back from that, because there are some of those moments. You're not wrong. They do just get the stunts, but the stunts were impressive in this film. Like the one where Miho is like jumping back and forth, and then she jumps and ducks, but the guy ends up hitting the beam. Like, I'm like, that was a pretty impressive little, like, moment right there. But it's like, but it's not the way that, say, the first film, like, it's an editing issue, too. Like, that movie, they edit it so that they look like they're good fighters. This film,
Yes.
there are plenty of moments where I'm like, well, that is an adult man. That is not a little boy. It's
my
like,
God,
where
the
Colt...
flips at the end for
Yeah.
Colt.
Not just that, where, like, Colt is fighting and suddenly his whole face is covered. Like, how's he seeing at all? And you don't need...
Yeah.
And you don't need any other proof that this is a separate universe from the first film than the fact that Colt ruined that beautiful mask his grandfather bought him in the first movie. He covered it in white spray paint so that he could hide in the white room that they were, like, redecorating in that movie. So, like, how's he got his blue and white mask back? What, did he repaint it? No. He doesn't have the patience for that.
I mean, also, what is the weird B plot of the baseball game in this one about? I mean,
my
it's
God.
like, it feels like it's only there because they did the whole basketball bit in the first movie, but that is just a, like, diegetic, like, off the cuff, kids are hanging out at a playground, so they play a game of basketball. Makes total sense. This movie feels like it's more about the baseball than anything else. The lessons that they learn, they then bookend this film by coming back to a baseball game and applying those lessons and winning the game. And then the credits roll shot is like them all standing around a baseball trophy with Grandpa. Like, it becomes so much about them playing baseball. It is wild. Like, there's an entire plot point about them needing to get back in time to play the championship game.
Yeah, I mean, Miho, the ninja master that they befriend in this film, and that Rocky is dating, which I don't really like that moment. That is something I forgot. I thought that Miho was like Colt's little foreign getaway romance. I don't like that. Oh, it's about that fortune's about love, so that goes to Rocky anyway. Like, no, let the other ones enjoy women. Why does Samuel Douglas have to be the only horny three ninja? And he's fucking horny for real. That Lisa DiMartino shit, where he's pitching and she, like, waves at him, and then he gets the fucking kaleidoscope vision of her, and then
Clark Griswold, like straight up a scene out of, like, Vacation, where he has like a dream about this girl, like daydream about her.
But I have to say, I do dig that, because in his friggin' hormone-addled brain, he imagines she's batting, that he just throws underhand is brilliant. Like, it is a brilliant little bit. There is some really nice stuff in this movie, but it is not Three Ninjas. And in any way, shape, or form. Like, I mean, quality-wise, I like the first movie. The movie that I watched all the time was Three Ninjas, to the fact that I eventually was gifted it and played it until the tape broke. Like, that was our background movie, was Three Ninjas. The way that it sounds like Three Ninjas Kickback was yours. And honestly, with the age difference between us, even just being a year, that tracks in a lot of ways.
Well, and it could also be something as simple as, because this is another thing that happened, the movie place I was going to just didn't have the first one. This was the one that they had, right? It could, like, that was also a thing, is like, you ended up really liking a particular movie and then finding out 10 years later, no one in the world watched it but you, because it was like your movie rental place was the one place that ever had that movie.
Right. I know I said I wasn't going to bring up the third one again, but I remember going to the movie rental place and seeing it on the shelf and it blowing my mind. And then never really seeing High Noon at Mega Mountain until years later when we did it for Three Friends in a Movie. So, like, we're doing them all. Like, I'm just going to make sure we're doing Knuckle Up. We're going to do High Noon at Mega Mountain. Even though Hulk Hogan is in High Noon at Mega Mountain, hopefully the Jim Varney is enough to, like, clean that bad taste out of our mouths for Ninja-Tivity.
I could talk some shit about Hulk Hogan for a while. Don't worry about that.
Oh, good. I'm glad I could too. So that's it. And he deserves every word. But it is one of those things where it wasn't like everybody knew that Knuckle Up was coming out. It was just something that suddenly was on the shelf. So that thing you're talking about, like, there are people who never knew there was a third Three Ninjas movie because it was straight to video in 1995.
We must have talked about this, but it's why I have so many issues remembering what's going on with the Karate Kid films, because to me, I remember Karate Kid being like on the shelf, and then Karate Kid, the one with Hilary Swank there. What's the name of that
The
one?
next Karate Kid. Well, that one makes sense. I mean, that one came out.
Those are the only two movies that I remember in that series. I always forget that there is a Karate Kid 2, right? Like,
yeah. And honestly, that makes sense because Karate Kid 3, most people don't like Karate Kid Part 3 anyway. It's my favorite because I like that it's just like a day in the life of these two karate people. And then, Cobra Kai made that a whole series. So, and Cobra Kai borrowed a lot from Karate Kid Part 3. It's just the facts. But that and the next Karate Kid are the two that came out in my lifetime. I mean, granted, Karate Kid Part 2 also came out in my lifetime because I was born in January of 86. But, like, the two that I was aware of through, like, marketing and such were most assuredly Part 3 and the next Karate Kid. So it makes sense that, like, you being born in 87, like, you're not cognizant or aware of movies. I'm sure you'd seen the first one because it was, like, required viewing for us in our We All Love Ninjas world that we grew up in. But I don't know.
Yeah, no, but this would just happen. So you wouldn't be aware of films, or you would be aware of certain films, more aware of certain films than other people were, because it was like it was just what your store had and stuff like that. So that's the other side of that, is that I think the reason why it wasn't the first one for me, it was this one. I think part of that reason is I saw the first one because like somebody went out of their way to show it to me. Somebody was like, "Oh, you need to see Three Ninjas. It's a really fun, kids movie, and they do ninja stuff, and you like ninja stuff, so we'll watch this movie." Kick Back was one that I could find on my own pretty easily. So like 6-year-old Sejin like was perfectly capable of, this was the one he was capable of getting his hands on. Like it would have been any of them. It could have been any of them. It just so happens this is the one that the movie place had, right? So that's the other thing about this movie, is that like it is such a retelling of the first one, and it is so all over the place with the stuff that it adds, that this movie almost has like no real identity to me. Like I forgot that this was the same movie in which we see the whole we see the whole weird hospital stuff with the nurses, and specifically the three guys running around as the nurses, and like those three guys in general, completely forgetting that the other half of this movie is this wild thing about like the legend of Curly's gold that they're after with the sword and the dagger that they need to open the door. Like and that whole back like third of this movie taking place in like this like underground like cavern under the kingdom in Japan. And it's just like this is not the same movie I was watching an hour ago.
Yeah, it's strange because what always sticks out about Kick Back for me, I do not remember the Indiana Jones subplot with the Cave of Gold. I do not remember the baseball game. I remember the tournament. And specifically why I probably remember it is the hubris, different hubris, of Colt. Because Colt has always been my favorite Three Ninja. I wonder why the one with anger issues is my favorite of the Three Ninjas. Let me just look at my Raphael statue and ponder briefly.
You got a thing for rad dudes with bad attitudes.
Yeah,
you got a type.
I do. I have a type. I get it. But it is. So that his whole hubris of like, I could take him, and then like sneaking into the final fight and getting his ass handed to him. Like, it was at a time in my life where like I was learning about hubris and trying to manage my own hubris. So like getting to live vicariously through Colt, getting his ass handed to him because of his cockiness, like, that's what stuck with me. But also, like, I kind of dig the fact that, like, it's one thing that in the stands, he's like, I could take him. And then, like, when he has the opportunity to do it, he actually, like, applies himself to try to prove that point. Like, I dig that part of it. I'm gonna be honest.
Yeah.
Like,
No,
and
I mean, like, Colt gets a pretty decent movie in this. I mean, he gets his whole, like, really cool moment, really weirdly shot moment. You want to talk about weird editing, but cool moment nonetheless with the ball bearing and the gun at the end, right?
I'm
And all of
sorry,
that when he
Sijan,
gets
the
to, like,
ninja ball.
ninja ball. Sorry.
I have
Yeah,
a ninja ball left. That's a ball bearing, Colt. I don't know why everything has to be ninja.
Yeah, just because you have it in your hand doesn't automatically make it a ninja thing. But he has like that really wild moment where it goes into like the James Bond shot,
I
and he's like
love
watching
it.
the gun like almost like 3D style, like coming at the camera, like
Yeah, it's like, and also the whole let the bullseye grow till it's the size of a melon and then hit it. And so like they do that with
the baseball at the end, which is
the
weirdly
baseball,
like
which is
oversized for the rest of that shot. Yeah.
no, but also the barrel of the gun, like the
Yes,
hole,
yes.
like growing so that Colt will know how to throw the ball bearing into it to like, which also I don't know that would that kill him if a gun went off in his hand like that. I don't.
I mean, there's a lot of there's a lot of ways in which that could have broken bad for Colt too. Still,
Yeah.
like that ball bearing going into that gun would not have necessarily stopped a bullet from coming out. Depending, like there was a lot of things that had to go exactly right for what happened to happen in that moment.
But then there's also
That's what makes it a kids movie.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Like, that's what makes it a right.
Right. The weird implication, though, being that because the gun backfired, that's also why the tunnels are now collapsing.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I
Well,
mean,
and like the gun backfiring, like him aiming a gun at children and it backfiring on him.
and
This
he,
also seems to be the thing that like completely changes his personality, and he's a good guy now.
like, oh my God, I almost killed a kid. That's what I was gonna do. I deserve to be in here. Like, yeah, it is. What about? I mean, there's that weird scene where they get to the like. It's not a round table, but it's like the table of ancient warriors, and I'm like, it's like the Goonies. That's Willie's gold. Like it's.
If you take one, do you become a zombie like Jack Sparrow?
I don't know. They don't take any gold, thank goodness. And then the moment where friggin' Koga pulls the sword out and then throws the sword in so that the door can never be opened again. But the dagger must be saved. We must save the dagger.
Well, what's interesting is because this is a poorly made movie, the showing of a cave in is a bunch of these like styrofoam rocks that they just clearly just did one shot and they were just like, that's fine, that's enough, it works. But the last moment, those rocks are not really like the sword is actually not really gone. Like we're given this impression that he throws it in and closes the door.
But there's the
this
little hole
entire
that Tum
opening
Tum escaped
that
through.
Tum 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 had escaped through, and they show rocks fill that up, but like they're not big rocks and there's not a lot of them, so it'd be very easy to just move those out of the way and just grab the sword again. So like it becomes this very hollow gesture in a matter of moments.
Yeah. I mean, then they do try. Like, that's them trying. Like, it's okay, though, because then the rocks block the hole, so everything's going to be fine. But it's like, but also the cave is collapsing. Like, nobody's ever going to get in there ever again, right? I don't understand what you're trying to tell me.
Yeah, then why did we need to leave the sword?
Yeah.
Like,
I don't know. It's a weird time. And then you got friggin' Donna's dad as the umpire. Friggin' Don Stark.
yeah, so if
Like,
I had to talk about the plot of this movie, because
It'd be
anybody that has
baseball.
not watched this
Yeah,
movie and just listened to us talk about it, they're like, what is going on? They're all over the map. This movie's all over the map. This movie starts with them at a baseball game not doing well because they don't follow their ninja rules. I don't know what that has to do with baseball, but apparently because they don't follow their ninja teachings, they fuck up the game. First question, why are all three of them on the same team?
That is a really good question that I also wrote in my notes.
Tum Tum is supposed to be 7 years old, isn't he? Isn't he supposed to?
He is definitely younger than them. I mean, this kid eventually goes on to be Buster in Blues Brothers 2000. Should we be questioning anything that he's doing? Yeah, no, there's no way that they would all be on the same team. Like, it's just the way, like, Tum Tum would still probably be in T-ball, maybe the next step up. But, like, Colt and Rocky definitely could be on the same team.
I was gonna say I could, especially if you had something along the lines of Colt being a good baseball player, so he was like playing on like a more varsity style team that Rocky just was, being the oldest
But
brother
it's
was
just
just on
little
because of
league.
age.
They're
But
very
like,
clear that it's little league. So sorry.
yeah, but but we had divisions when we played little league. Like, so Rocky and Colt being on the same team could happen, but more likely each of them would be on their own team.
Yeah. Well, I mean, not with their dad as the coach. I feel like that part. I mean, the big issue is that like
Well, right.
yeah, they would be Irish twins too, based on the ages of Max Elliott Slade and Sean Fox. One is 79, one is 80.
Sure.
So
Yeah,
like
no,
it's believable that
but
they'd
the
be in
whole
the
thing
same
is
age
the whole
group.
thing is explained by the fact that this is not a actual little league, essentially, right? Like, this is just like some local league like get together, probably like sponsored by like the local pizza
I
place,
mean,
but not like an official game of any kind. But that begs the question then, why it is. I mean, it's clearly not that official of a league, because the ways in which the umpire is able to just move the date of a game just on a whim
oh, and
is fucking buck wild.
also we're starting over. They're in like the 7th inning. It is definitely little league rules because it's only 7 innings. They're in the final inning when the fight breaks out, and the umpire's like, I'm delaying this game a week so you can all calm down and grow up, but also we're starting from inning number 1. Like, I've erased this game from existence.
Exactly.
It
just
makes no
so
sense.
it becomes this thing where they need to come back for this championship game. But as far as I can tell, it's not really that important. This is not make or break. They're not gonna lose their scholarship or some nonsense like that if they don't play this game. On top of that, their dad seems to be the one in charge of their entire team, and as far as I can tell, has as much power as the umpire at that point to say, "Hey, we're gonna move the game because 3 of my kids are not here to play." Like, you moved this game to a date without talking to anybody. You just decided to do that on your own. And yes, unfortunately, on that date, we aren't able to get everybody together. So let's find a date where we can. Like, it just seems like they tie themselves to such a loose, slippery like handhold that they are like, we need to get back for this game, guys. The game is what's so important.
Well, because first of all, we are taking 5 minutes to discuss the fact, how the fuck are they in the championship game? They are not good at baseball at all. They're in
Because
the
there's only
championship.
2 teams in this entire league, Devin. Clearly.
Yeah, it is like when they're like, it's the championship game. Don't you want the chance to strike somebody out in the championship game? And it's like, how the hell? How the hell you in the championship game? And meanwhile, Tum Tum running around getting free hot dogs, being the most charming guy in the fucking room. Let me get 2. One bun, no bun. And then the hot dog lady.
First fight scene of the movie is this fight on the field, and we don't see them do any ninja stuff. Tum Tum once again runs out from the fight. He does not fight anybody to go get an ice cream.
Because they established that his watch has an alarm. That's how we know that. We're like, when's the ice cream guy get here? Oh, he'll be here in about 30 minutes. Thanks. Hi, Lisa DiMartino. Catch the ball, not the wiener, Michael. So
catch the ball, not the wiener. Why would that even be happening? Oh my god. Yeah, so they lose this game, or rather, the game gets completely washed, as Devin pointed out, and the game gets moved back. So because of that, they can't go on this trip to Japan that they're supposed to go on with their grandfather.
They have the option. Like, that's the other fucked up thing. Is that Colt's like, we're playing fucking baseball. I fucking hate Grandpa. He's so mean to his grandfather.
Yeah.
Like, I don't get...
Again, after everything that we learned from the first movie and the growth that we see and how close they get to their grandfather in that first movie, the way that they treat him in the beginning of this movie is ridiculous.
Like, how am I supposed to play fucking baseball when Grandpa's giving me ninja lessons from the goddamn stands, Mom? Like... Whoa, okay. What the fuck? And the shit that the grandfather is yelling got nothing to do with goddamn ninja. It's like, focus. Remember how to hit a bullseye.
The same shit that every other parent is probably yelling at their own kid. Yeah. When Colt breaks that bat over his knee, that scared the shit out of me.
Yeah, it should scare the shit out of you because he was gonna do that to somebody in the field.
Like, I think he was about to stab somebody with that broken bat.
Somebody. Like, Colt is scary.
They're given this choice to whether to go to Japan with Grandpa still or to stay for the game, and Rocky and Colt want to stay for the game. Tum Tum wants to go to Japan.
Colt also
because
Rocky
he's
also
interested
wants
in
to
sumo
go to
wrestlers
Japan.
who get to eat shit, right?
Rocky also wants to go to Japan, but Colt like guilts him into saying, "We're gonna stay for the baseball game, Rocky." Because it is, and honestly, let's be honest for a second. It is not something like we win this, then we're going to frickin' Cooperstown, right? They are not in a little league where they're gonna go to the Little League World Series if they win this game. I mean, right. there doesn't seem to be any establishment there. It is just the feeling of like, oh, we got to win the championship game. Now, I've been on championship teams for every sport that I ever participated in. So I know that feeling. But, like, I'd rather fucking go to Japan with my cool grandfather who taught me how to be a ninja. Like, what? Yeah. Like, what?
Well, but then, so Grandpa goes to Japan without them and ends up in the hospital, right? And are we ever given an implication that if they had been there, that wouldn't have happened? Like, it seems like bad screenwriting. Good screenwriting would dictate that because they choose to stay rather than go with Grandpa to Japan, the plot of the movie then happens as a consequence of that choice, right? And that choice, and like Grandpa being on his own, like, unable to protect himself, like ends up hospitalized, and then their guilt or about choosing, because they end up having to make the choice to go to Japan anyway because Grandpa gets hospitalized, and at that point they're just throwing the baseball game out the window. So, like, why did we agonize over this whole baseball thing? Like, why didn't we just send them there? Like, it's a very long road to get them to be in Japan for the other half of this movie that we don't need to go on. It's part of what I was getting at early on when I was saying that things happen in this movie because they're just supposed to. Because we need them to get to Japan, they just decide to go to Japan. There's no reason for them to go because they're not talking about feeling guilty about not being there. They're not talking about any sense of like necessity, like, of going. I don't know what they feel like they're going to contribute by getting on a plane to go see their grandfather. By the time they make that decision, it's like, why did we fight this in the first place?
Right. So I mean, the whole plot of it. Right. First of all, you touched on it earlier, and I am going to just establish this is Colt's movie. This is Colt's story. His brothers just happen to be there because it is all about he's really mean to his grandfather. And then once his grandfather is hurt in Japan, he's like, fuck baseball. Like, Grandpa matters more than that. Family is more important than fucking a shitty baseball game. We got to go be there with Grandpa. Right. So that's all part of it. But then there's also the fact that Grandfather is hospitalized by the three bozos, right? Glam, Slam, and Vinny, which, like, I really wish that the other guy had an Am name, right? Like,
well, but that's the bit, right? That's the joke, Dev.
Okay, I understand. It's not having a third one is also a joke. The rule of minus ones. I understand. But Glam, Slam, and Vinny are the reason why Grandfather is hospitalized. But the reason that they do it is then they also steal his bag. But there's also a bag switcheroo where Grandfather accidentally took Tum Tum's bag, where are my ding-dongs, to Japan, and the dagger, which is the whole reason he's going to Japan, because apparently every 50 year, Koga Japan has this karate tournament, this ninja tournament, and the winner gets the dagger. That's the other thing, right? Is like, it's been 50 years. They establish it's been 50 years. So, like, Victor Wong's character, who also, just another thing, he's a Chinese-American actor playing a Japanese guy in this movie.
Oh, that's fine. All the music in the movie's Korean, so it's like they don't get anything right.
The music fucking kicks. I'm sorry. I want this soundtrack on my Spotify.
That's fine, but it is just a bunch of Korean artists.
Songs. You're not wrong about
they're like
that.
Running around Japan, and then like they're like, oh, Japanese culture, and then what you're listening to is Korean, like surf rock.
Yep. All of the Asian people are interchangeable in the eyes of the Three Ninjas producers.
Unfortunately, I think that might be true.
No, definitely. There's no doubt that it's the truth. But yeah, so I mean, he's been the champion for 50 years. It's happening again 50 years. So he has to give the dagger to whomever wins. And that, like, but the dagger's stuck in America. So, like, the other reason why they're going to Japan is because that dagger is such an important part of that tournament. So like it's half for Grandpa, but it's also half to get this dagger to Japan.
Sure. Right, yeah.
Which is
And so first, so then all that does though is introduce more questions for me, because like of course I would give up a baseball game to go to a once in a 50-year experience for a ninja tournament that I am supposedly very into the concept of ninja. At least I'm led to believe that from the first movie, that they are all very into this. Like one of the big conflicts of the first film, and they kind of hint at it in this one, is that they love ninja so much, and they love their grandfather for like including them in this like stuff and teaching this stuff, and it kind of gets in the way, like their parents don't necessarily love that they're super into it, and like they don't love, and like it kind of makes them kind of not weirdos, but like they are different from their peers at school, which is part of the reason they get picked on and things like that. Like it is established that they choose ninja and love ninja so much that it makes them different than other
yeah,
people.
they're
It is what
outsiders
makes
because of
them
it.
the
Yeah.
right. It's what makes them the specials, right? And the reason why we follow them in a full movie. In this movie, they treat like the whole concept of like ninja training and all of this stuff as such a burden. And like the idea that they don't want to go to this competition is wild. I'm not even saying like I expected them to be fighting in it. I would just want to go witness it if I was somebody that was this into this world. But no, they're just not interested at all until they've got this weird reason to be there, which is just that the movie needs them to be there.
Yeah. And they luck into so much in this movie. Like I talked about the Home Alone of it all. It's very Home Alone 2 Lost in New York with the whole we'll take grandfather's message, boys, and use that in order to use his credit card to buy 3 first class tickets to Tokyo. And the fact that then when they're in Tokyo, also like they're good at baseball into Tokyo Airport. Where the fuck was that on the field? Like they work as a team into Tokyo Airport to take down that mugger with the baseball. And it's like, but because of that, the woman's like, oh, I want to thank you, so I'll give you a ride anywhere you want in my limousine. Like, these guys are so charmed. Their dad's gotta not be an FBI agent anymore, right? Like, I don't think an FBI agent is allowed to coach a little league team. I mean, I'll have to read the rules again.
I don't know why that would be the case, but it's more about the matter of like his kids run away and get on a plane and go to a foreign country, and they do nothing about it. We get a joke moment where when they're finally there, where Grandpa calls Mom, and then we get like the Charlie Brown like adult like wah 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 over the phone, where we can clearly tell she's like yelling. But then they hand the phone off to Tum Tum, and he just walks off and just solves the problem. He's just like, "Don't worry, I got this," and like wanders off with the phone. It's just like, okay.
We want
and
you to...
sure enough, he does. Like their parents don't really seem to, there's a couple of moments where we show the parents like longfully like looking at pictures of their kids as if they couldn't just go fucking get them.
My favorite part about that whole one is, like, I like the whole, all right, now remember, Michael, set your watch so you can call us at 2 p.m. Tokyo time every day. And he does that. And then it becomes a whole bit throughout the rest of the movie that, like, oh, it's 2 p.m., we got to call Mom and Dad. And so when they're fighting the ninja guys at the Grandmaster's estate, when Koga has come to Koga in order to get the dagger from them, and they're like, Rocky, give me the phone, and he calls them, and they're like pacing back and forth, and they're like, you're 5 minutes late with your telephone call. Like, shut the fuck up, we're in Japan. What are you talking about?
We're fighting ninja right now.
I thought we said no more ninja stuff. Yeah, 2 movies ago, Dad. Where the fuck you been?
Yeah, it is buck wild how just kind of okay the parents are with this. So yeah, like we skipped over like the house getting broken into scene because we mentioned it earlier, but there is also the house the housebreaking scene, and there's this wild thing that happens that I hinted at earlier or talked about earlier, where like they get into these fight scenes and then don't fight, especially Tum Tum. He like hides in a closet, and then when a guy pokes his head through, he like throws eggs and pies at it, and that's how he fights him. then I don't even know how he does the door thing. Like there's the door, he's got like a string on the door in order to like slam it shut every time a guy tries to open it, which makes sense. But then one time he, again, a la like Bugs Bunny, pushes the door in the other direction and it catches the guy off guard, and so like he goes flying back. But I actually don't know how Tum Tum did that, because you could pull those doors closed easily with that string. But how did he push that door open, and specifically push it open with so much force that that guy went flying back 5 feet?
I mean, because he's Tum Tum, he is a master of ninjutsu at such a young age. His potential
But the
is the
doors don't
greatest
open
of
that
the
way.
three.
They open from the middle out. Like
I know,
they don't open in a way that pushes out.
I
It's
know.
the wildest.
They do open out. If he were inside, the doors would open out because you open
No, no,
them
no.
out.
They're foldable doors. They're like so like they fold open. They don't swing open.
Yeah, they do.
So like
They're swinging
they wouldn't
doors.
open in a way straightforward, because that's how the dude's face gets stuck between them, and he starts egging him and throwing a pie at him. Is because the guy is able to slide them apart, and then like he gets his face in there, and that's when Tum
No,
Tum
they're
like
they're
eggs
like
him.
saloon
But like
doors. They
it's
open out on hinges, and then he just closes them. Once the guy's face is in there, he uses that string to close the guy's face in there to egg him a couple of times.
it was
It
just,
doesn't make sense. It's still.
But
I
none of
still
it,
agree
but
with
none
you.
of it, yeah, but none of it is a good action sequence, right? And then like there's the guy crawling around up in the loft, and we see him get kicked in the face from like an off-screen kick, but that's like the most of it. Like the most that they do as far as in that scene goes. Again, second fight scene of the movie, and they're
That's
not really
the first
doing
fight
anything
scene. That
ninja
happens
style.
before. I was about to. This is why we're good partners, because we were both at like, we did talk about the time they were at Grandpa's house and the three guys attacked. Like that, I think, is why Colt is mad at his grandpa at the baseball game. Like that is the only logical thing, because Colt is so happy that like we fought off these guys who were gonna try to rob the place, and he's like, a ninja does not brag about his things. So then like Colt's like, well, fuck you too, Grandpa. Like that has to happen before the baseball game, because that's the opening. They're at their grandfather's house prior to the baseball game.
The
And
break-in
then,
doesn't happen before the baseball
yeah, it
game.
does. Oh, it definitely does, because it's right before the baseball game. It's weird.
Okay.
Does it not? No, it does. It does. Because they're at it, they're doing the stuff, and then we'll have dinner, and then they go back to, we're going to have the baseball game, and then we're going to leave for Japan. Like, that's the whole thing. But then they go back to the grandpa's house where they decide, you might be right. Yeah, because he goes to go pick him up. You're right. It is the second fight. What the fuck?
Yeah.
This doesn't
Yeah,
make
no,
any
the-
sense. This gives it.
The baseball game happens 7 minutes into the movie.
Yeah, you're right,
The
yeah.
break-in happens
Because Rocky's wearing his glasses.
17 minutes into the movie.
Rocky's
Yeah.
wearing his glasses. That's the first time we see that Rocky has glasses. Let's also talk about the fact that, like, Rocky has glasses, isn't embarrassed about his glasses. Grandpa says to use them,
until
Rocky.
Mio also has glasses.
Yeah,
which I
who
think
has
is a
the
great moment.
same glasses.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's weird. That doesn't... Because, like,
Yeah, it's
that doesn't make any sense, because I'm trying to, like, justify why Colt would be like, fuck you, Grandpa, at the beginning of this movie, where, like, Grandpa hasn't done anything except be a supportive grandfather. It's not like
well,
he's,
he is
like...
training them.
Yeah.
So there is this moment, this training montage that happens during the opening credits. Like, while names are scrolling, you're seeing them do, like, ninja training with Grandpa in like, the woods and stuff. But again, they seem to be having a good time, and they seem to be doing okay. Like, Grandpa does give them, like, things to work on, but like they're not ninja masters. It's a weird attitude for Cole to adopt.
Well, it's also strange because in the first movie, he's like, your ninja training is over. This is why you get your masks. And it's like, but now they're not good enough 2 years later.
Yeah,
And it's not like, and it would be upsetting, right? Imagine if you're at your baseball game and your grandfather from the stands is like, Colt, do a double front ball kick. And it's like, what the fuck are you talking about? I'm batting. I'm not going to kick. What are you talking about? Like, he's just like, focus. God damn it, Grandpa. Don't tell me to focus. This isn't ninja. Like, what are you talking about, you stupid bastard? Yeah, and that, like, I don't know.
Kids run away to Japan, right?
They run away to
like,
Japan. And they bless.
while they're there, they just get into like a really weird Indiana Jones style shenanigan, like where they end up finding 500-600-year-old gold? No, 1,000-year-old gold, right?
Thousands of years old. The gold has to be thousands of years old.
Yeah. It's like this really like wild story. And Grandpa does mention it in the beginning, and he kind of hand waves it as not true, and like as if he doesn't believe it. But then later on, it turns out to be true, and it seems that Grandpa knew it was true the whole time.
Well, Grandpa knew the story. But I think what he's saying is like it's just stories. But also, you see those three ninjas, they become little greedy bastards like, let's get some of that fucking gold, Grandpa. You got the dagger, let's go get some of that fucking gold. So like that's like, all right, boys, the gold is not real. Finish dinner. Like, okay, all right, thank you. I love Victor Wong's voice as Grandpa because I feel like I can do it and it's not a horrific, like, stereotypical voice. Like, it's just
No, it's only
gruff.
slightly
It's
problematic.
like a gruff voice. Boys!
So,
What you
is
got?
going on? What is going on with the amount of cross-dressing comedy in this movie? Like the specifically in the hospital scenes, right? Like we do get the Pinky and Inky and Mo there. What are their names? Grand Slam
Glam,
and Vinny, right?
Slam, and Vinny.
Glam, Slam, and Vinny. Yeah.
Who's Vinny?
Like we get
name's
them.
Brian.
But there is definitely also an earlier moment with like a guy dressed up as a nurse, or am I misunderstanding?
No, that definitely,
what the
there's
joke
definitely
was
the
supposed
moment
to
where
be?
like, so first of all, MASH shout out, have to shout out the fact that Kelly Nakahara, R.I.P. Kelly Nakahara, she just passed away, like in 2020. Love Kelly Nakahara. She was in MASH. She played Lieutenant Kelly Yamato, registered nurse. Fantastic in MASH. She is playing Victor Wong, Grandpa's nurse. And like it almost kind of feels like it's gonna turn into like love between the two of them. Like,
or at least a mutual like friendship
respect
and
to
respect.
friendship.
But
Like
even
it is,
that doesn't seem to.
but
Yeah.
it's weird. Like it does feel like it's teasing that, but like he is just mean to her. So that's why I'm taking a moment to like just name check Kelly Nakahara and the fact that she is so on board for everything she has to do in this film. Like the moments where she gets to be a badass and kick ass is pretty great. But Kelly Nakahara he's like, could you please make sure my boys get on the train to Koga? And she's like, sure, my shift's ending. Here's my replacement. And it's like a 6'8" dude in drag with like huge fake tits and a bad long wig. And it's like, what the fuck is happening? And what?
Yeah, I don't. And then like he comes at Grandpa as if he's going, or they come at Grandpa because that's the thing is I honestly do not understand what we're supposed to like
Take
what we're
away
supposed
from
to be
that
getting
moment.
from this
I agree.
moment.
Yeah.
Because I almost thought for a second, I was like, oh no, is this somebody coming to kidnap him? Because that's what this whole story is about. And then we see the three guys dress up as nurses in order to go and kidnap him later. So I was like, oh, okay. So that was the bit or that wasn't the bit? I'm still confused. So like the ways in which it's shot and like it shows Victor Wong like freaking out that this person is now his nurse. And it's just like, calm down, dude. She's like, they're just there to just give you food and medicine. I don't understand. Like, what is happening to Grandpa in this hospital that he is like, that he's physically afraid of this nurse coming to help him?
Yeah. So it is Glenn Shin who plays the role of Nurse Shibuya. And again, like it is set up to the fact that like, yeah, this could be somebody in disguise. This could be Khan, the guy who plays like Ishikawa, Masashi Ozawa, credited as like Khan. God, he's so good in this movie. Killer Khan. He's Killer Khan from the WWF. Because also, this is like the weird time where the WWF has now teamed up with the Three Ninjas franchise.
Yeah. Well, it's but it's that era where we've started to create some real superstars in wrestling, and now we want to start seeing how far we can push it, right? Like this is the early McMahon era, isn't it? Like the early
definitely.
90s.
Yep.
And like can we start doing things like, Mr. Nanny and stuff like that? Can we start making superstars out of these celebs? And like, and he does eventually. Like, he perfects a pretty popular and successful formula for that good, that still to this day we see people working their way through. But like, there's this moment when this guy comes on screen, and it's supposed to be a joke, I guess, and it's just like, oh, okay, I don't understand anything that's happening in this moment, and I don't understand if I'm supposed to hold on to this moment. And you're not, right?
You're
Like,
not.
it never really comes back.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I'm looking at, because Toru Tanaka played Rushmore in the first movie, and I'm pretty sure, yeah, he was Professor Toru Tanaka in WWF 72 to 77. So like, they always kind of had this, like, we're gonna get wrestling guys into it. So then by the time Hulk Hogan is in Mega Mountain, it's not that.
I mean, it
weird.
starts with what's his nuts back in the 80s, right? With like They Live and things like that.
Yeah, exactly. Roddy Piper.
Yeah.
But so I guess if I had to point to a reason why they would have so much cross-dressing stuff, it's 1994, right? Think about the end of Ace Ventura. Think about all of the bits in like films from 94. For some reason, we were like obsessed with cross-dressing in 94.
I mean, comedy. Look, like the idea of cross-dressing in comedy, it has its roots that go all the way back to the ancients, right? Like we know.
Well, I mean, think about Shakespeare. All the parts were played by men.
The Greeks, right? The Greeks and the Romans loved doing these kinds of bits too. So like, it's not surprising to me that somebody has put this cross-dressing comedy into this kids movie. Again, like you just pointed out, this happened a lot in the 90s. And it makes sense and works and even gets a little funny in a couple of moments with the three idiots doing it, right? When they come dressed as nurses and they're like straight up like feeling each other's fake tits. It was the weirdest moment where they're just like grabbing each other's asses and stuff, and you're just like, okay, guys, like you can explore this maybe off screen later when we're not in a PG movie. Can we do that maybe? But that all makes sense, right? Because that is part of the plot. They are there to try and kidnap Grandpa again. We already know they're idiots, so this idea of them being in bad costumes, all of that works, right? They're very Looney Tunes-esque, so doing the whole like Bugs Bunny dressed as a woman thing, like totally on board for why this is happening. I do not understand the moment with this other nurse though, because it is completely divorced from any of that, and it is just for this bit of Grandpa being scared of this masculine looking woman. That's what the only interpretation of that scene can be. And that is just unfortunately gross, like just upsettingly gross.
I mean, the bit as written, if I had to describe it, is the fact that like you thought you had it bad with Kelly, now you got to deal with Nurse Shibuya. Yeah, and like
but the only thing we know about Nurse Shibuya is just what we have in that 2 seconds of filming, and the only thing that we're really given is that this person looks a little bit different than they should, and it's just like, aha, funny. It's like,
funny, I mean, guys. I'm not saying it works, but I think like that's the stuff. It's like, oh, you had it easy with Kelly, and honestly, he does kind of have it easy with her. Like he's acting like she's the worst, but she's like rubbing his leg to make sure that the muscles don't atrophy, or like when she takes off the blood pressure cuff, and he's like, oh, like. She didn't actually rip tape off of you. She just opened up Velcro that was near your body. What are you doing, sir? You're a ninja master.
Yeah, if it was flirty, like it'd be a whole different conversation, right? But the fact that he seems to genuinely dislike her for no reason is just weird. But again, the way that this movie treats women in general is really wild, because this entire time, by this point, we have met Mio and her mom, right? And like,
which
the
saint?
ways in which
Mio's mother is a saint. I'm gonna take in 3 freaking American kids for like basically no reason. They have no plan.
And they destroy her house.
They destroy the way absolutely destroy her house. The way that
they fall through that wall, I was just like, that is not like people. You want to make a joke like that with like, oh, these like paper walls in these houses that, but it's like, no, that's a wall of somebody's home that you just ripped through. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah, no, I definitely thought about it. What about the shuttle driver that gets them to LAX? And by the way, the shuttle from Home Alone. Like, they do not shy away from, oh yeah, this is just Home Alone, guys. Like, when the mom finds out and she screams in the camera, that they went to Japan. Like, I don't know. I like Tum Tum because he's pretty capable for like being the youngest kid, but I miss him having actual ninja abilities.
Capable of, I was about to say capable of what? Like he's clearly smart, he's clearly intelligent, he is able to figure things out, and like that's fun and all, but like that's not why I'm here. I didn't come to watch him be like a Looney Tunes character.
Straight up, watch him. And they get that too. Like Three Ninjas, if you go back to our first episode, they understand nobody needs Donatello. We could do the Ninja Turtles without Donatello, because that's what the Three Ninjas are. They're all kind of Donatello. They all have like higher than normal intelligence, but then Rocky is frickin' Leonardo, Colt is Raphael, and Tum Tum is Michelangelo. But even Michelangelo, like, he's a good ninja in Ninja Turtles.
Yeah,
I don't believe that
to the point where, I mean, like to the point where like there are full arcs that we now have of Michelangelo on his own.
Yeah, right. It's one of those.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, me, myself, and I, right? One of my favorite Turtle comics ever is all about, like, Raphael is frustrated in a sparring match with Michelangelo because Raphael is giving his all, and Michelangelo's, like, not even really trying. And it frustrates him to the fact that Raphael almost kills his brother, and that's why he has to go and fight Casey Jones. It's Ninja Turtles. Ah, God, I love Ninja-Tivity. And I mean, this movie, look, podcasting and the Three Ninjas are invariably linked for me. Because the very first podcast I ever recorded was watching the Three frickin' Ninjas movies. And I get that. So I like being able to do them as part of this show. I like being able to reclaim them. But Kickback is never going to be my favorite Three Ninjas movie. And that's just an unfortunate fact for me, because it is.
I am worried that there's going to be some real rubber banding, because I do enjoy the first movie. I know that I probably gave it some shit when we watched it, because of there's a kids movie in the 90s. They're not well made films. It's just the fact of the matter. And like it's rare that they are, I guess I should say. And this movie is just not doing it for me. I'm curious to see how I feel next year about Knuckle Up.
I am because Knuckle Up, again, it is a movie that has parts of my brain that are completely under its control. And I remember it is so what the second Three Ninjas movie would be if we look at all the other ninja stuff that we have studied just on the show, right? But we'll save that for next year. But I am also curious how it rubber bands for you. But yeah, I mean, I liked the first movie. The first movie was a movie that stuck with me in a lot of ways. And this is one I remember seeing it. I did not get a chance to ask my mother what she remembers about this movie. I'm sure she'd say you were excited to see it, but I thought it was stupid, because that's kind of what she said about the first one. But I can definitely imagine, after the amount of times I had watched Three Ninjas, the original Three Ninjas film, like, it was our movie. It was the movie that was on all the time. Like, if I was over at a friend's house, I brought my copy of Three Ninjas for us to just put on in the background. I really liked that movie. And then I was excited for this one. And then, like, the part that sticks out for me is the part that, is weirdly the least consequential to everything. Like, if this were an anime, fucking having a ninja tournament would be 17 episodes. It's not even 17 minutes of this 93-minute film.
No, they show up. There's one fight, and then that part of the story's done.
Like it's this once in every 50 years competition that is just shuffled to the background. But like, obviously in my mind, it's the most interesting part to me. It's kind of like Karate Kid Part 2, because this movie has a lot of Karate Kid Part 2 in it as well, with the whole we're going to our sensei's homeland to learn more about it. Like, everybody talks about the final fight of that movie, and it's like, but it's the final fight of that movie, and honestly, it feels tacked on to the end of that film. Like the Karate Kid Part 2 happens, and then they're like, oh, Chosen had to come back to challenge Daniel-san. Spoilers for Karate Kid Part 2. A movie that's been out for 38 years. Like, but it does. It feels like the big part of that movie is the hurricane, and that's when like Miyagi's rival finally forgives him because he proves that he's not a coward, which he always thought he was for leaving Okinawa. And it's like this whole thing, and then they're like, "Oh, but no, we need to end it with a fight." And then like the fight is like this intense thing that people talk about all the time, and I'm like, "Yeah, but it doesn't have anything to do with the story of that movie." It's just we want to end it with a fight scene. It may, in fact, be the first example of the third act fight scene for no good reason.
Yeah, we do. It needs to have a fight scene in the third act. That's why everybody's here. That's why their butts are in the seats.
Yeah.
So the other big thing about this one is it's the only Three Ninjas to get a video game adaptation. Did you play?
Yeah, I hate it.
At all?
So the Three Ninjas Kickback video game is that is what really sticks in my mind about this one, because remember Funko-Land? Hey kids, remember Funko-Land? The Funko-Land, their pricing used to be like a school newspaper. And because of the three of it all, Three Ninjas Kickback was always at the top of the list. So, like, I remember looking at that game all the time and being like, maybe. And then finally getting to play it on emulation and being like, oh, this is terrible. Like, this does not feel like Three Ninjas. But, like, it's by the same people who did the Hook video game.
Yeah, and you can
and
tell.
I love the Hook video game. I love that game. So
both the Hook video game and the Kickback video game, I will say, Hook definitely more than Kickback. They know their source material better than a lot of these kinds of movie-based
IP games, yeah.
video game IP games, right? And it's weird in the Three Ninjas one how much it actually like adheres to a lot of stuff that happens in the movie and like brings in stuff. Like the entire opening level is like you going around the woods and beating up these like training dummies that are pretty well modeled versions of the exact training dummies that are in the movie. Like it's an actual like pretty good one for one in that regard. Then there's all sorts of weird video game shit with like you having to like find treasure boxes and collecting shits and all that sort of stuff. But like the in between cutscenes, like the visuals for Glam, Slam, and Vinny are like weirdly well done, like for what they are. And that's where I was saying that you can tell it's made by the same people that made Hook, because you go and you play Hook and it's straight up, it looks like they just digitized moments of the movie in that, and like the flying in that game is so good, and the level designs and concepts are so much fun, and like so Hook is a great game. So go back and play that one. Don't play the Three Ninjas game because outside of the weird adherence to the movie, it's not a good game. And then I don't love the movie either, so the game has really got no chance with me.
Like, there's part of me, because it's Sony ImageWorks that did the game for both of them, right? Like that's, which makes sense. And it has a Sega CD. Like, there's part of me that like thinking about it and being like, oh man, Hook was a game that I absolutely love the Hook video game. Definitely recommend the Hook video game to everybody. But there was part of me that like, should I try Three Ninjas again? And like, in the mindset of you have nothing else, like you can't go to the next game in your ROMs folder. You need to finish this. Here's what I'm going to say. It's the fucking Say report, right? I'm going to complete Three Ninjas Kickback the video game for Super Nintendo, specifically the Super Nintendo version, before our Three Ninjas Knuckle Up episode a year from now. That's what I'm gonna say. That is the Devin Ducker promise.
Man, Sony ImageSoft did all sorts of wild stuff. They also did the Bram Stoker's Dracula video game. Just talking about just movies like, turned into video games. They did Hudson Hawk.
That game's terrible though. Sorry, Bruce Willis.
Last Action Hero, Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, which I believe is the Kenneth Branagh one, right?
That's correct.
Yeah, they did a bunch of wild ones that were based off of movies. Jesus, I can't even imagine what a Bram Stoker's Dracula video game looks like. I gotta get my hands on that.
Yeah, I mean, Hook being the only one that I've played. the moments in Hook that are super video game are my favorite parts about him. It is like fuck Ubisoft, right? I'm just gonna say that off the top. But like the Scott Pilgrim video game has those moments where like this is a video game, we're painfully aware this is a video game. So like here's the boss fight where it's two big hands and the head, and you have to hurt the hands to hurt the head. Right? So like they have those moments. And the Hook video game, like there's the level that I love is the pirate cave. It's the last level before you get to Hook's ship. I don't know. I fucking hate us. I love us at the same time, but like, screw you, Station, for derailing me by bringing up the Hook video game.
Hey, man.
No, you're right. And that level, like, you have to bring a little fire, like living fire, to the boss so that it can take over a skeleton, and then you need to beat that skeleton in a fight. And it's just like the most video game thing. But then also, like, you go through Hook's ship and you beat Hook, and then there's like a secondary fight against Hook where like, but what if Hook was not Dustin Hoffman, but the final boss in a video game? So he's got like the long ass hook shot style thing that he can do to grab you. Like it is like Sony ImageSoft based on Hook. I can't talk of any of, I can talk about Hudson Hawk because that game's fucking terrible, right? Like that was rushed to come to thing because Bruce Willis was like, well, it needs to have a game adaptation. And I don't really like Hudson Hawk. I really wish that I did. I love the movie. I hate the game. But based on Hook, Sony ImageSoft really understands like how to gamify the movies that they are assigned to make games of.
They did a cliffhanger game, the Sylvester Stallone cliffhanger, and it's like a fucking like beat 'em up.
Yeah. Like that they knew what they were doing when they made those games. Like they understood like we need to make this a video game. As opposed to like Surf Ninjas, right? Which was like, oh my god, we're teamed up with Sega, so we need to do a video game. That video game is like kind of nothing like Surf Ninjas. But like based on Siege, yeah, I've played the first level of the Three Ninjas Kick Back game, and it is training with Grandpa in the woods, and it is like not great, but in terms of I'm playing the movie for 94, you feel like you're playing the movie. Like they did a good job there.
Yeah, more so, like I said, more so with Hook than with Three Ninjas, because it does get like into some really weird like video gaming mechanics about like but I mean they go through the whole break-in is one of the levels, if I remember correctly. I remember running around the house and like and being chased by like Glam and Slam and Vinny. Like you like run around the house in one of those levels. So there's like that whole concept in one of them. It's man. The game was one of those ones that I rented once, played it, wasn't good at it, so never really went back to it. So like that's the most experience that I've got with it. But I do remember that I remember there being this like weird like adherence to the actual film. And when I was looking stuff up today about it, I was like, yeah, like the shots from this game are wild.
Yeah. So I mean, I'll beat the game. I'm sure with 365-ish days to complete the game, I can like put my nose down and finish it. Though I say that I have not finished Frontier Hunter, Ezra's Wheel of Fate. That boss I got to is just too big of a problem. And I'm going through Power Rangers Rita Rewind because they did a huge patch that like everybody is like, oh, they made the game good now. And I haven't finished that either. I got to the final level right before we recorded. But
did they make the game good now?
They sped it up. Everything moves faster. And like, it's amazing how like moving faster does it. I don't think it's a good game. I still wouldn't call it a good game. It's a better effort. And I've been talking to some like people in the beat 'em up community. I have found people in the beat 'em up community, which is like the best thing that came from Rita's Rewind and a little bit from G.I. Joe Wrath of Cobra, is the fact that like I played these games, had miserable experiences, found kindred spirits on the internet who felt that way and have been like recommended better games. And then I'm having a huge discussion with people about, did they actually make the Rangers different when they fight, or is it just a placebo effect from them moving faster? Like, it's a thing that, like, we're really testing. Because some people have said straight up all of the Rangers have different attributes now. And I'm like, I don't think they do. I think that, like, you're just moving faster so they feel more fluid. And, you know, some of their combos, like, just work better with the speed than others. I don't think anybody's stronger than anybody else. But the testing is happening. So maybe someday I can actually report on that. I kind of want to get the platinum. I'm 4 trophies away from it, but one of them is to beat the Green Ranger without taking any damage, and that's very difficult because the Green Ranger's an asshole. Rest in peace, Jason David Frank. But your video game version of you's an asshole. Anything else about Three Ninjas, Cedron? Kickback?
They keel haul a man.
They definitely do keel haul a man. That is definitely a thing that happens in this movie.
That is just like terrifying when that happened, and they just casually do it to a man. But no,
yeah, but he's trying to kill him. He's a big scary guy.
This.
What about like the fact that here's the thing, Snyder, he kills his nephew and his nephew's 2 friends. There is no doubt in my fucking mind that Patrick Lachapreux, Bud from Jag, and his 2 buddies in the first Three Ninjas movie end up dead when they fail the uncle. They fucking play with that trope so much in this movie.
I mean, they get strung up upside down at some point, like a la fucking like Black Mask in the Harley Quinn movie.
Yeah,
I was like, that's not going to end well for them.
Yeah, but he's like, you failed me. Show them what happens to those who fail. And they just put him on a fucking treadmill and make him run real fast. Or like, deal with them. And he throws him in a pool. Like, if they couldn't swim, or you put him in like big heavy armor, like, it was one of those things where I'm like, oh my god, he's gonna kill his nephew, because that's what, like, that's established canon in fucking Three Ninjas, is that like, we're gonna kill you. But no, that doesn't happen. And then the last thing is, I dig that they have like one bully. Like, I dig that the pitcher on the other team is the same bully from the basketball game. Yeah. I like that a lot. It's solid continuity. And I like that he's like running with a new gang. What is up with the kid who eats the beans and then goes and bats? I don't like that. Fart humor and my Three Ninjas? No, thank you.
It was all over this one. That kid was farting all over the place.
And people were passing out. Like, yeah. So that's Three Ninjas Kick Back. Happy Ninja-Tivity. Anything else? Like, this is the first live Ninja-Tivity. Anything else you want to share here, Sejin? Like, before we wrap this one up, like, about what's been going on in your life since the last episode?
Not
okay.
much. Getting ready for the new year. Christmas
yeah, right. That's
great.
it. Yeah. I don't know. What If happened? Yeah. Did you fuck with What If at all? What If season 3?
No. I didn't really ever catch on that show, even in season 1 when people were loving it. And then by the end of season 2, it seemed like people were doing their thing where they were just done with Marvel. And I've heard nothing but complaints about 3 so far. It's not that I feel that the show itself might actually have any of those issues that people are bitching and moaning about. I would know. I haven't watched it. It's one of those things that, like, I just don't feel like engaging with right now, because of the ways that people are engaging with it is so toxic, and I don't want that to affect my enjoyment or viewing of it. So it'll be one of those things that I catch in like 3 or 4 years and see, and we'll talk about it then.
Yeah, I am just gonna say, I love that these last 2 seasons, they're like, people at home for Christmas, let's just release 1 episode a day. It's such a refreshing thing. I wish more streaming did that type of release, where like it's 1 episode each day until the episode's out. Because then you have like time to sit and ruminate with what you just watched. It's not just on to the next. Like, I finally caught up with It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, or at least I started catching up with It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, because there's going to be the crossover with Abbott Elementary. So I want to make sure I'm up to date on all of the goings on of the gang. And, like, I just buzzed through the 15th season because it was so easy to keep watching. And it just feels strange because, like, I like that with What If, Like, I watched, after we recorded last week, I watched the first episode, and then I just got to do that. And, 8 episodes, so, like, it's a week of my time that I gave them, and, like, I got a pretty solid story out of it. I mean, not to be toxic or add to that toxicity, some of the animation is better than other animation, and that's a little disappointing. Like, where one episode looks incredible, and then another episode looks just not very good. but I mean, but that's animation, right? Like, that's like the Ninja Turtles had 6 different houses that were doing episodes of Ninja Turtles in like 1987 when that show first came around. So, I mean, it's just the nature of it, but you would hope that with something like this show in the modern time that you could get like quality across the board. And that it was just a little disappointing. But it was fun. I really liked the third. There were 2-ish episodes where I'm like, these could have been full-on movies, and I would have been real happy about it. Like, it reminded me of back when Marvel was about the genre movie first. And we've talked about that a lot. But, like, we'll make a spy thriller, and it just happens to feature Steve Rogers for, like, Winter Soldier. Like, that is...
they had to become slaves to the whole extended universe of it all,
Yeah, and it's a shame because like there's a buddy like road trip movie episode that was really, really good, and then the Western episode was fucking incredible. And also, I will admit this, they were the 2 episodes that got the whole voice like by the people who play the characters. Because like it's weird hearing somebody else do Tony Stark, especially when like Chris Hemsworth is back for Thor. But, like, Robert Downey Jr. is not back. And I understand that. But then there's other characters in the What If. Like, Lake Bell has played Black Widow through all of them. And she has done an excellent job being Black Widow. Like, so it's 6 and 1/2 dozen in another. But, yeah. Those episodes where they're able to get everybody to come in and do the work as the characters, those are the ones that really shine. So, that's it. I mean, you're going to love season 3, episode 4, Siege, and I'm going to just call that. that is the most Say Report episode of Marvel What If that has ever existed. And you'll see when you get there, and I'm excited for it. And I'm excited for the listener, too, if you're checking it out, because, yeah, there's something we love about one of those characters, and I still am not sure what, other than the fact that it's pretty much what hatched our friendship. That was pretty good. I'm pretty proud of myself. All right. Anything else? Are we ready to send this one off? Last episode of 2024, Siegen. So
yeah, let's take it into the new year.
All righty. So thank you so much for joining us for this episode of the Say Report, where we celebrated Ninja-Tivity 2024 with 3 ninjas kicked back. If you want to keep the conversation going, you can join our Discord. Invitations to join are available wherever we are on social media, which right now means Facebook and X, formerly Twitter. Just go to our profile, and there's an invitation right there. You can join and keep the conversation going. Or always feel free to send an email to thesayReport@gmail.com. We can facilitate you with an invitation to the Discord. Or if you just want to be old school and correspond via electronic mail, we're willing to do that too. And as always, if you want it to be for my eyes, Devin Decker, or his eyes, Siegen Sarwick, just put our first name in the subject line, and we will make sure that it is distributed appropriately. One last thing, I have to do this live, or I'm never gonna fucking do it. The last 2 episodes of the Say Report have been recorded in bad faith because I forgot to switch out Fall Wolverine for Winter Wolverine when the winter solstice happened. So I'm doing that right now, Siege, and vamp while I find Old Man Logan to switch him out. Because I feel bad about it. I just
so
feel
next year we're doing Knuckle Up, but when do we get to do Beverly Hills Ninja? That's
That's 97, my friend. So 2027.
Yeah. We'll definitely have to we'll have to do that because it lives in that weird realm of being kind of like the parody of these types of movies. But also being just one of these movies, so we'll have to talk more about like whether or not we feel it succeeds in what it does.
I watched it last year, really enjoyed it. So I'm excited to talk about Beverly Hills Ninja. And I think it's 97. I'm pretty sure I lived in Rhode Island at the time it came out. So it's either 96 or 97, and we'll know. Old Man Logan, after all that Marvel talk, is officially now in his spot. Sorry for these 2 episodes recorded in bad faith. Again, thank you. Join the Discord. Send an email to thesayreport@gmail.com. But for right now, enjoy your remaining 2024. Happy 2025. And William, please bring us home.
Thank you for listening to the Say Report with your host Devon Decker and Stephen Selwick. Please follow the guys on Twitter and Facebook by searching for The Say Report, and you can always subscribe on your podcast channel so this is delivered straight to you and you can enjoy it every week. With apologies to your mother, we'll see you next time.